Jake Harrison sat in the massive council chamber and watched the alien delegates argue about humanity's future. The room stretched for hundreds of meters in every direction, with curved walls that seemed to pulse with their own light. 12. Different species had gathered here on the neutral space station above Kepler Prime, and each one had something to say about whether humans deserved full membership in the Galactic Federation. The ambassador kept his face calm even though his heart was beating faster than usual. He had been Earth's representative for 15 years, and he had never seen the council this divided about any issue. The tall blue-skinned Zephyrians were the loudest voices against humanity, their crystalline head crests glowing brighter when they got excited about making their points. "The humans have barely mastered basic space travel," declared High Counselor Zareth, her voice carrying the musical tones that all Zephyrians used when they spoke. "Their vessels are primitive constructions that barely hold together in deep space. How can we trust them to defend our worlds when they cannot even defend their own system properly?" Jake wanted to laugh at that comment, but he kept his expression neutral. If only she knew what was really hidden in the outer reaches of the solar system, she might think differently about human capabilities. The Earth Defense Force had worked very hard over the past 50 years to make sure that visitors only saw what they were supposed to see. Admiral Vextar of the Korthani Empire stood up next, his massive frame covered in the traditional battle armor that his species wore even during peaceful meetings. The Korthani were warriors by nature, and they respected strength above all other qualities. Unfortunately, they had only seen the weakest parts of Earth's military forces. "I've observed human naval exercises personally," Vextar said in his deep, rumbling voice. "Their largest warships would not survive a single engagement with our patrol vessels. They lack the armor, the weapons, and most importantly, the warrior spirit necessary for galactic warfare. Perhaps in another century they might be ready for full membership, but not today." The other species murmured their agreement with various sounds and gestures. The insectoid Hivert's representative clicked its mandibles in a pattern that Jake had learned meant strong disapproval. The Sivari delegates, who looked almost human except for their silver skin and extra arms, whispered among themselves in their rapid language. Jake had heard all of these arguments many times before. For decades, Earth had deliberately shown only their oldest ships and most basic weapons to galactic observers. The real fleet remained hidden behind asteroid fields and stealth technology that most species could not even imagine. Admiral Katie Sullivan had made sure that every visiting delegation saw exactly what Earth wanted them to see. Nothing more and nothing less. Commander Lisa Brooks sat beside Jake at the human delegation table, and he could see her trying not to smile at the alien comments. She knew the truth about Earth's military capabilities better than almost anyone. Her security clearance gave her access to files that would shock even some of Earth's own leaders. The experimental weapons programs, the hidden shipyards, the advanced fighter squadrons that trained in complete secrecy. "The humans show promise in some areas," admitted Counselor Thizes of the Ethereal Collective, her translucent form shimmering as she spoke. "Their diplomatic skills are adequate, and they have shown creativity in solving certain technical problems. However, creativity alone cannot protect our citizens from external threats." The debate continued for hours, with each species presenting their concerns about humanity's readiness for full Federation membership. Jake answered their questions politely and provided the standard responses that Earth's government had approved. He talked about human determination and the desire to contribute to galactic peace, but he could not mention the real reasons why Earth would be a valuable ally. The Zirathi Dominion had been quiet for almost 10 years, but intelligence reports suggested they were building their forces for another major offensive. Earth's deep space monitoring stations had detected unusual energy signatures from the Outer Rim territories, and military analysts believed that a new invasion was only a matter of time. The Galactic Council would need every advantage they could find when that day came. A soft chime interrupted the debate, and High Counselor Zareth activated the chamber's main communication system. The holographic display showed Admiral Korith of the Combined Defense Fleet, his expression grave as he looked out at the assembled delegates. "Honorable counselors, I regret to interrupt your session, but we have received urgent reports from our outer monitoring stations," Admiral Korath said. "The Zirathi Dominion has launched a massive invasion fleet targeting the core worlds. Initial estimates suggest they have assembled over 10,000 vessels, including several of their planet-killer dreadnoughts." The chamber fell completely silent. Even the normally noisy Zephyrians stopped their crystal chiming, and the Hiverch representatives' clicking ceased entirely. The Zirathi Dominion represented the greatest threat that galactic civilization had ever faced. Their last invasion had destroyed dozens of worlds before the combined fleets could stop them. "How long do we have?" asked Admiral Vexstar, his warrior instincts taking over immediately. "Our analysts believe the enemy fleet will reach the Meridian Nebula defense line within 72 hours. Admiral Korath replied, "We are mobilizing all available forces, but we need every ship that can fight. This includes vessels from species that are not yet full Federation members." All eyes in the chamber turned toward Jake. He could feel the weight of their stares, and he knew that this moment would change everything. Earth had been preparing for this day for decades, but he had hoped it would never come. "Ambassador Harrison, can Earth contribute to the defense effort?" High Counselor Zareth asked. Her tone had changed completely from the dismissive attitude she had shown earlier. Jake stood up slowly and looked around the chamber at all the alien faces watching him. "The United Earth Government authorizes me to commit our available forces to the defense of the core worlds," he said formally. "However, I will need 48 hours to mobilize our fleet and coordinate with our military command." Several of the alien delegates exchanged glances that clearly showed their doubts about how much help Earth could provide. Admiral Vexstar nodded approvingly, but Jake could see that even the Korthani warrior did not expect much from humanity's contribution. 48 hours is acceptable," Admiral Korath said from the holographic display. "Every ship will be valuable in the coming battle, regardless of its capabilities." Jake sat back down as the council session moved into emergency planning mode. Lisa Brooks leaned over and whispered quietly, "Should I send the authorization codes to Admiral Sullivan?" "Yes," Jake replied, keeping his voice low. "Tell her that Operation Hidden Thunder is now active. It's time to show the galaxy what humanity can really do." Admiral Katie Sullivan received the encrypted message while standing in the command center buried deep beneath the surface of Titan. The facility had been built inside the moon's ice and rock, completely hidden from any scanning technology that visiting aliens might use. For 30 years she had waited for this moment, hoping it would never come but preparing for it every single day. The authorization codes from Ambassador Harrison were simple and clear. Operation Hidden Thunder was now active. Katie turned to her communications officer and gave the command that would change everything. "Send activation signals to all deep space monitoring stations. Bring the outer perimeter online and begin full spectrum scanning of approaching threat." Vectors. Across the solar system, installations that had remained dormant for decades suddenly came to life. On the dark side of Pluto, massive sensor arrays emerged from underground bunkers and began sweeping space for enemy signatures. In the asteroid belt, weapons platforms disguised as mining stations activated their targeting systems and prepared for combat. Even Earth's moon revealed hidden launch bays as protective panels slid away to expose rows of advanced fighter craft. Captain Ben Miller was sleeping in his quarters aboard the UES Phoenix when the alert klaxons woke him up. He had been commanding the stealth carrier for 8 years, but this was the first time the ship had received a combat mobilization order. Ben rolled out of his bunk and pulled on his uniform, his mind already shifting into the focused state that had made him one of Earth's most trusted ship commanders. The Phoenix was hidden in the shadow of Jupiter's largest moon, using the massive planet's radiation to mask its energy signature. To any outside observer, the area appeared completely empty. The ship's adaptive camouflage technology made it invisible to every known form of detection, and its crew had trained endlessly for the day when they would finally reveal themselves to the galaxy. "Captain on the bridge," announced Lieutenant Sarah Hayes as Ben entered the command center. The bridge was smaller than most alien warships because human technology required fewer crew members to operate effectively. Advanced artificial intelligence systems handled most of the routine tasks, allowing the human crew to focus on strategy and tactics. "What's our status?" Ben asked as he settled into the captain's chair. "All systems are green and we're receiving telemetry from the outer monitoring stations," replied his tactical officer, Commander Tony Martinez. "The Zerathi fleet is even bigger than initial reports suggested. We're looking at over 12,000 vessels, including at least 50 of their heavy dreadnoughts." Ben studied the tactical display that showed the approaching enemy fleet. The Zerathi ships were massive and angular, built more like moving fortresses than traditional warships. Their technology was different from anything the Galactic Council had faced before, which explained why they had been so successful in their previous invasions. Dr. Amy Patterson was working late in her laboratory when the mobilization order arrived. As head of Earth's Advanced Weapons Division, she had spent the last 15 years developing technologies that most scientists would consider impossible. Her team had created weapons that could phase through enemy shields, generators that could manipulate gravity itself, and targeting systems that used quantum mechanics to track multiple targets simultaneously. The weapons she had designed were stored in secret facilities throughout the solar system, ready to be deployed at a moment's notice. Amy had always hoped that her creations would never be needed, but she also knew that Earth's survival might depend on them. The galaxy was full of species that were older and more advanced than humanity, and Earth needed every advantage it could find. "Begin final preparations on the quantum torpedo systems," Amy told her assistant, Dr. Mark Chun. "I want all Phase 3 weapons ready for deployment within 24 hours. This is not a drill." The quantum torpedoes were her most advanced creation, capable of shifting between dimensions to bypass any known defensive technology. Each torpedo could strike multiple targets by existing in several parallel realities simultaneously. The physics behind the weapons were so complex that even Amy sometimes had trouble understanding how they worked. Commander Rick Santos was training with his pilots in the hidden base on Mars when the alert came through. His Ghost Squadron consisted of the best fighter pilots that Earth had ever produced, flying craft that were invisible to all known sensor systems. The stealth fighters were fast, deadly, and operated with a level of coordination that alien military leaders would find impossible to believe. "Listen up, people," Rick announced to his assembled pilots. "This is what we've been training for all these years. The Zerathi are coming, and the Galactic Council thinks we can't help them. Time to prove them wrong." His pilots were all volunteers who had undergone years of specialized training. They could operate in any environment, adapt to any enemy, and strike from angles that traditional military thinking would never consider. Each pilot was equipped with enhanced reflexes and improved coordination that allowed them to fly their advanced fighters with superhuman skill. Colonel Mary Foster received her orders while reviewing training reports at the Mars Military Academy. Her enhanced Marines were preparing for ground combat operations that might be necessary if the Zerathi managed to land on inhabited worlds. The soldiers under her command wore adaptive armor that could reconfigure itself based on enemy weapons, and they carried weapons that could adjust their ammunition type in real time. "All units report to staging areas immediately," Mary announced over the base communication system. "Full combat loadout and prepare for rapid deployment. We're going to war." Her Marines had trained for combat in dozens of different environments, from the methane storms of Titan to the crystal caves of distant alien worlds. They could operate in vacuum, underwater, or in atmosphere so toxic that it would kill most galactic species instantly. Each Marine was a complete fighting unit, capable of independent operation while maintaining perfect coordination with their teammates. Back on Titan, Admiral Katie Sullivan watched as reports flowed in from across the solar system. The true scope of Earth's military capabilities was finally being revealed, even to some of her own officers who had never known about all the hidden installations and secret weapons programs. "Ma'am, we're receiving confirmation from all deep space units," reported her intelligence officer, Commander Diana White. The outer perimeter is fully operational and we have eyes on the approaching Zirathi fleet. Katie nodded as she studied. The tactical displays showing Earth's real military strength. Hundreds of hidden bases, thousands of stealth fighters, and weapon systems that could reshape the balance of power in the galaxy. For 50 years, Earth had pretended to be weak while secretly becoming one of the most dangerous military forces. In known space, send a message to Ambassador Harrison, Katie ordered. Tell him that Earth is ready to defend the core worlds. And remind him that the galaxy is about to learn what humanity is really capable of. The combined Galactic Council fleet assembled at the Meridian Nebula looked like a massive city floating in space. Over 50,000 vessels from 12 different species had gathered to make their final stand against the Zirathi invasion. The sight should have been inspiring, but Jake Harrison could see the fear in the alien commanders' faces as they watched their sensors and realized how badly they were outnumbered. Admiral Vexstar of the Korthani Empire stood at the center of the command station, his battle armor gleaming under the artificial lights. The massive warrior had fought in dozens of conflicts throughout his career, but even he seemed worried about the approaching enemy fleet. The Zirathi had brought more ships than anyone had expected, and their technology remained largely unknown to Galactic Council forces. The enemy will arrive in approximately 6 hours, Vexstar announced to the assembled fleet commanders. Our scouts report that they are maintaining tight formation and advancing at maximum speed. They clearly intend to overwhelm our defensive positions through sheer numbers. Jake listened to the tactical briefing while standing near the back of the command center. Earth's small flotilla of 12 ships had been assigned to the rear guard, far from the main battle lines where the real fighting would take place. The alien commanders had been polite about it, but their message was clear: humanity's contribution would be minimal and largely symbolic. High Counselor Zareth activated the main tactical display, showing the defensive positions that each species would occupy. The Zephyrian crystal ships formed the center of the line, their energy weapons providing long-range fire support. The Korthani battle cruisers anchored the flanks with their heavy armor and close combat capabilities. The other species filled supporting roles based on their particular strengths and technologies. Ambassador Harrison, your vessels will protect the supply convoys and assist with rescue operations, Zareth said without looking directly at Jake. We appreciate Earth's willingness to participate, but we believe your ships will be most effective in a support capacity. Jake nodded politely and accepted the assignment, even though he knew it was basically busy work designed to keep human forces out of the way. The alien commanders had no idea what Earth's ships were really capable of, and Jake intended to keep it that way for as long as possible. Captain Ben Miller received his orders aboard the UES Phoenix while the ship remained completely invisible to all sensors. His crew had been monitoring Galactic Council communications for hours, listening to the alien commanders discuss their battle plans and assign positions to various fleet elements. The complete dismissal of Earth's capabilities would have been insulting if it wasn't so tactically advantageous. Helm, bring us to full stealth and move us into position behind the Zirathi advance elements, Ben ordered. Tactical, I want targeting solutions on their command ships and supply vessels. When this battle starts, we're going to hit them where they least expect it. The Phoenix began moving through space like a ghost, its advanced propulsion system producing no detectable energy signature. The ship could pass within a few hundred meters of enemy vessels without being noticed, and its weapon systems were designed to strike without revealing the ship's position. Ben's crew had trained for this kind of warfare for their entire careers. Lieutenant Sarah Hayes monitored the long-range sensors as the Zirathi fleet continued its approach. The enemy ships were even more massive than the intelligence reports had suggested, with some of their dreadnoughts measuring over 5 kilometers in length. Their hulls were dark and angular, designed to absorb sensor beams and deflect energy weapons. Captain, I'm reading some unusual energy patterns from the lead Zirathi vessels, Sarah reported. It looks like they're charging some kind of weapon system that we haven't seen before. Ben studied the sensor data and felt a chill run down his spine. The energy readings were off the charts, suggesting that the Zirathi had developed weapons that could destroy entire fleets with single shots. The Galactic Council forces had no idea what they were about to face. When the Zirathi fleet finally emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Meridian Nebula, their true size became apparent to everyone. The dark ships stretched across space. Like a spreading shadow, their numbers so vast that they seemed to blot out the stars themselves. Even the most optimistic Galactic Council commanders realized that they were facing complete annihilation. Admiral Vextar's voice carried across all communication channels as he gave the order to engage. All ships, open fire. For the honor of our worlds and the survival of our species, we make our stand here. The battle began with a massive exchange of energy weapons that lit up the nebula like a fireworks display. Zephyrion crystal ships fired brilliant beams of concentrated light, while Corthony battle cruisers launched volleys of plasma torpedoes. The other species added their own weapons to the assault, creating a wall of destructive energy that should have stopped any advancing fleet. The Zirathi ships absorbed the bombardment without slowing down. Their dark hulls seemed to drink in the energy weapons, and their shields deflected the physical projectiles with ease. When they returned fire, their weapons cut through Galactic Council defenses like they were made of paper. Entire ships simply vanished in brilliant flashes of light. Within the first hour of combat, the Galactic Council fleet had lost over 8,000 vessels. The Zephyrian crystal ships were particularly vulnerable to Zirathi weapons, shattering into millions of pieces when struck by enemy fire. Even the mighty Corthony battle cruisers found their armor inadequate against the strange new weapons that the invaders had brought. High Counselor Zarath watched in horror as her species' flagship exploded under concentrated Zirathi fire. The crystal being's natural luminescence dimmed as she realized that the battle was already lost. The enemy had brought weapons and tactics that no one in the Galactic Council had ever encountered before. All ships begin withdrawal to secondary defensive positions, Admiral Vextar ordered, his voice heavy with defeat. We cannot hold this line against their superior technology. Jake Harrison stood on the command station and watched the retreat begin. Thousands of alien ships were turning away from the battle, their formations breaking apart as panic spread through the fleet. The Zirathi were advancing steadily, destroying everything in their path without mercy or hesitation. Commander Lisa Brooks activated her secure communicator and sent a coded message to Admiral Katie Sullivan on Titan. The message was simple, but carried enormous significance. Authorization requested for Phase 2 weapons deployment. The response came back within seconds. Phase 2 authorized. Show them what humanity can do. Jake smiled for the first time since the battle had begun. The galaxy was about to learn that Earth had been hiding far more than anyone had imagined. The change began so quietly that most of the alien commanders did not notice it at first. Commander Rick Santos and his Ghost Squadron launched from their hidden positions aboard what appeared to be Earth's modest support vessels. To the retreating Galactic Council forces, it looked like humanity was simply deploying a few defensive fighters to help with the evacuation. The reality was something completely different. Rick's stealth fighter slipped through space like a shadow, its advanced cloaking systems making it completely invisible to every sensor in the battle zone. His squadron of 24 pilots followed behind him in perfect formation, their fighters equipped with weapons that violated several galactic treaties and operated on principles that most alien scientists would consider impossible. Ghost Leader, to all units, we are cleared for full engagement, Rick announced over the secure communication channel. Target priority is enemy command vessels and supply ships. Remember, we don't exist until we want to exist. The first Zirathi ships began, exploding without warning deep behind their own battle lines. Their sensors detected no incoming missiles, no energy weapon discharges, and no enemy vessels anywhere near the detonations. The quantum phase weapons that Rick's fighters carried simply materialized inside enemy hulls and detonated their reactor. Cores from within, Admiral Vextar watched his tactical display in confusion as Zirathi support vessels started disappearing throughout their rear formations. The enemy fleet's advance began to slow as commanders tried to understand what was happening to their ships. Some of the alien officers were reporting ghost attacks and invisible enemies, but Vextar had no explanation for the mysterious destruction. Captain Ben Miller received the authorization he had been waiting for and began the most dramatic revelation in galactic military history. The USS Phoenix, which had appeared to be a simple Earth frigate, began separating into its component parts. The holographic camouflage that had hidden its true nature for decades finally shut down to reveal a massive stealth carrier. "All hands. This is the captain," Ben announced over the ship's communication system. "After 30 years of hiding, we're about to show the galaxy what Earth can really do. Launch all fighters and prepare for full combat operations." The Phoenix was not one ship, but rather a cluster of advanced vessels that had been disguised as a single modest craft. As the holographic projectors shut down, over 200 fighter craft emerged from hidden bays along with 50 support vessels and 12 heavy cruisers. Each ship was equipped with technology that made them invisible to alien sensors and weapons that could strike targets from impossible ranges. Lieutenant Sarah Hayes coordinated the fighter launches while monitoring the reactions from the Galactic Council fleet. The alien commanders were sending frantic messages asking what was happening to the Earth vessels, but their own sensors could not detect the ships that were separating from the Phoenix. "Captain, we're receiving priority communications from the Corthany flagship," Sarah reported. "Admiral Vextar wants to know if we're experiencing some kind of technical malfunction." Ben smiled as he watched his fighters disappear into the battle zone. "Tell the Admiral that Earth is operating exactly as intended. He'll understand soon." "Enough." Admiral Katie Sullivan sat in her command center on Titan and watched as reports flowed in from across the solar system. Earth's hidden fleet was finally revealing itself after decades of careful concealment. Over 2,000 vessels began decloaking simultaneously throughout the battle space. Having infiltrated enemy formations under complete stealth, the tactical situation reversed in minutes, as humanity's true military strength became apparent. Ships that had seemed impossibly advanced to galactic standards were actually the oldest vessels in Earth's inventory. The real fleet consisted of craft that operated on principles that most alien species had never imagined. Dr. Amy Patterson's experimental weapons began demonstrating their capabilities as gravity, while generators created localized space distortions that crushed entire Zirithi formations. The enemy ships, which had seemed invulnerable to conventional weapons, found themselves being compressed into tiny balls of metal by forces that bent space itself. "Quantum torpedo systems are fully operational," Dr. Mark Chun reported from the Weapons Control Center. "We're achieving 97% hit rates against all target types." The quantum torpedoes phased through multiple targets simultaneously, existing in several parallel dimensions at once. Each weapon could strike dozens of enemy ships by following quantum pathways that bypassed normal space. The Zirithi fleet, which had been advancing steadily just minutes before, suddenly found itself under attack from weapons that appeared everywhere at once. Colonel Mary Foster's Marines began boarding operations on disabled Zirithi vessels, their adaptive equipment, allowing them to function in environments that would kill most galactic species. The boarding teams moved through enemy ships like ghosts, their enhanced reflexes and advanced weapons making them nearly unstoppable in close combat. "Team Alpha has secured the enemy command section," reported Sergeant Jim Rodriguez over the tactical network. "These ships are more advanced than our intelligence suggested, but their crew quarters are not designed for beings who can adapt to changing conditions." The human Marines wore armor that could reconfigure itself based on environmental threats, and they carried weapons that could adjust their ammunition type in real time. Against enemies who had never faced such adaptable opponents, they proved devastatingly effective. High Counselor Zareth stared at her tactical displays in complete shock as the battle situation changed around her. The Zirithi fleet, which had been on the verge of total victory, was suddenly collapsing under attacks from invisible enemies using impossible weapons. Her crystalline form flickered with confusion as she tried to understand what was happening. "How are the humans doing this?" she asked her tactical officer. "Our sensors show only 12 Earth vessels, but they appear to be engaging the enemy." across the entire battle zone. Admiral Vexstar was asking himself the same question as he watched Zirathi dreadnoughts exploding under concentrated fire from weapons that his sensors could not detect. The massive warrior had fought in dozens of battles, but he had never seen anything like the systematic destruction that was spreading through the enemy fleet. Jake Harrison stood quietly in the command center and watched the alien officers try to make sense of what they were seeing. Earth's deception had been so complete that even the most advanced galactic species had been fooled into thinking that humanity was technologically primitive. The truth was that Earth had been preparing for this moment for over 50 years. "Ambassador Harrison," Admiral Vexstar said as he approached Jake, "can you explain what is happening to the Earth fleet?" Jake looked at the massive Korthani warrior and smiled. "Admiral, what you're seeing is humanity's real military capability. We've been hiding our true strength for decades because we learned long ago that the galaxy can be a dangerous place for species that appear weak." The Zirathi fleet continued to collapse as Earth's hidden weapons and invisible ships struck from every direction. The enemy commanders had no defense against tactics they could not understand and weapons they could not detect. Within hours of revealing their true capabilities, humanity had turned certain defeat into overwhelming victory. The battle ended within 4 hours of Earth's true capabilities being revealed. The Zirathi fleet, which had seemed unstoppable just moments before, now existed only as scattered debris floating through the Meridian Nebula. The few enemy ships that survived the encounter fled into deep space, carrying news of humanity's shocking military power back to their masters in the Outer Rim territories. Admiral Vexstar stood on the bridge of his flagship and stared at the tactical displays showing the aftermath of the engagement. His sensors were finally detecting some of the human vessels as they allowed themselves to become visible, but he suspected that many more remained hidden throughout the battle zone. The scope of Earth's deception was beyond anything he had imagined. The massive Korthani warrior had fought in over 30 major space battles during his career, but he had never seen anything like the systematic destruction that humanity had unleashed on the Zirathi forces. Earth's weapons operated on principles that violated everything he understood about galactic warfare, and their tactics showed a level of strategic thinking that impressed even his warrior culture. "Communications, request permission to come aboard." "The human flagship," Vexstar ordered. "I need to speak with their commanders directly." Captain Ben Miller welcomed the Korthani admiral aboard the UES Normandy, which had finally revealed itself as Earth's true command vessel. The ship was massive, rivaling the largest dreadnoughts in the galactic fleet, but its design was unlike anything that alien engineers had ever created. The hull seemed to shift and flow like living metal, adapting constantly to changing conditions. "Admiral Vexstar, welcome aboard," Ben said, as the alien warrior stepped through the airlock. "I apologize for the deception, but Earth's survival strategy has always required us to hide our true capabilities until they were absolutely necessary." Vexstar looked around the human ship's corridors and marveled at the advanced technology that surrounded him. The walls seemed to pulse with their own energy, and he could feel the ship's artificial intelligence systems monitoring his every movement. This was technology that surpassed even the most advanced Korthani designs. "Captain Miller, I must ask you directly, how long has Earth possessed these capabilities?" Vexstar said. "Your weapons and ships are generations ahead of anything in the galactic fleet." Ben considered his answer carefully before responding. "Admiral, humanity has been developing these technologies for over 50 years. We learned early in our space exploration that the galaxy contained species far more advanced than ourselves, so we decided that our best defense was to appear weak while secretly becoming strong." High Counselor Zarath arrived at the human flagship. An hour later, her crystalline form still flickering with the shock of what she had witnessed. The Zephyrian leader had spent decades studying galactic militechnology, but Earth's weapons operated on principles that her scientists had never even theorized about. "Ambassador Harrison, I owe your species a formal apology," Zarath said as she entered the meeting chamber. "We severely underestimated humanity's capabilities, and our prejudice nearly cost us this battle." Jake Harrison accepted the apology graciously, knowing that this moment would reshape Earth's relationship with the entire Galactic Council. High Counselor, Earth has never sought to deceive the Council out of malice. Our deception was purely defensive, designed to protect our species while we learned about galactic civilization. The other species representatives arrived throughout the day, each wanting to understand how humanity had developed such advanced military technology in secret. The Hiverch collective consciousness admitted that their hive mind intelligence had completely failed to detect Earth's true capabilities, while the Savari delegates requested detailed briefings on human tactical doctrines. Dr. Amy Patterson arrived from Earth to address the technical questions that the alien scientists were asking. Her quantum weapons had impressed even the most advanced galactic species, but she was careful to share only basic information about their operating principles. Earth's most advanced technologies would remain classified until humanity felt completely secure in their galactic relationships. The quantum torpedoes operate by existing in multiple dimensions simultaneously, Amy explained to the assembled alien scientists. This allows them to bypass conventional shields and strike targets that would normally be protected by defensive systems. The alien scientists asked hundreds of questions about human technology, but Amy deflected most of them with polite explanations about classified research and security concerns. She did share some defensive technologies with the Galactic Council as a gesture of good faith, but the most advanced offensive weapons remained under strict Earth control. Commander Rick Santos became something of a legend among galactic military officers after his Ghost Squadron's performance in the battle. The alien pilots had never encountered stealth fighters that could remain completely invisible while engaging multiple targets simultaneously. Several species requested training exchanges to learn human fighter tactics. The key to our success is individual initiative combined with perfect coordination, Rick explained to a group of alien pilots. Each of our fighters operates independently, but maintains constant communication with the squadron. This allows us to adapt to changing battlefield conditions faster than enemies who rely on centralized command structures. Colonel Mary Foster's Marines also drew significant attention from galactic military leaders. Her soldiers had boarded and captured 12 intact Zerathi vessels, providing the first opportunity for galactic scientists to study the enemy's advanced technology. The boarding operations had been completed with 0 human casualties, which impressed even the warrior-oriented KORTHANI. Admiral Katie Sullivan traveled from Titan to attend the post-battle conferences, bringing with her detailed reports on Earth's true military capabilities. She revealed that the solar system contained over 300 hidden installations and that Earth's active fleet numbered in the thousands of vessels. The scope of humanity's military buildup shocked even the most paranoid alien intelligence services. Earth's military doctrine has always assumed that we would face enemies more advanced than ourselves, Katie explained to the assembled galactic leaders. This forced us to develop asymmetric warfare capabilities and technologies that could give us advantages despite being outnumbered or outgunned. Jake Harrison addressed the full Galactic Council 3 days after the battle, speaking to delegates who now viewed humanity with a mixture of respect and caution. The political dynamic had shifted completely, with Earth suddenly becoming one of the most influential voices in galactic affairs. The United Earth government is prepared to share defensive technologies with all council members, Jake announced. However, we request full membership in the Galactic Federation and a permanent seat on the Strategic Defense Committee. The vote was unanimous. Every species that had previously questioned humanity's readiness for full membership now competed to offer Earth favorable terms and alliance agreements. The Galactic Council formally recognized Earth as a Tier 1 military power, acknowledging that humanity had become one of the galaxy's most formidable civilizations. As the diplomatic ceremonies concluded, Jake received a classified message from Dr. Amy Patterson that made him smile. Deep space monitoring stations had detected signs of human colonies in distant galaxies, suggesting that Earth's expansion into space was far more extensive than even the Galactic Council now realized. The galaxy had finally seen humanity's strength, but the full scope of human civilization remained hidden among the stars.